Swarm Simulator is a rather interesting idle game in that it deviates from the norm quite a bit actually. In this game you gather meat by having drones that gather meat for you and then have other units that create other units that ultimately create more drones. You increase your possibility of creating more units faster. You gather more territory in order to create hatcheries and expansions, to create more lava, to create more units, to create more meat, and you gather energy over time to, well, pretty much increase your entire production, gain more lava, gain more territory, in order to gain more meat as well. You gain lava every second, and you can gain more lava by either spending meat or spending territory to increase how many lava per second you gain. And using this lava, you can make units for gathering territory or for creating units to create more drones, ultimately to gather more meat in the end. Now, the meat of this whole idle game, which makes it so interesting and abnormal almost, is the fact that the way the system works. So you have drones, and drones gather meat. And then you have queens that create drones. You have nests that create queens, greater queens that create nests, and so on. So basically you have this pretty big exponential function of how much meat you gather every second. And because of this, all of these numbers are pretty much escalating completely on their own. And what you're doing is just fanning the flames, making them escalate faster, which is rather interesting because in a lot of other idle games, you have to buy upgrades and level stuff up to escalate the numbers. But here the numbers really escalate themselves, which is really interesting. Now, for the meat you gathered, you can create units that gather territory. Now, territory is another resource that you gain over time, and you gain resource by basically just creating units that gather territory for you. And basically you just create a lot of the units. Directly you could just go for the most powerful units all the time, but I think it's actually better to just have a lot of some medium units. And you actually get this nice chart to see how all the units are doing in territory wise and how much you gain per second. Now, territory can be used to gain more expansions, and more expansions mean more lava, and more lava means more territory as well as more meat and pretty much everything of all. So it's this really nice system where larvae, meat, and territory and all the units of like meat production and territory production like sort of are interjoined with each other. They each increase the use of the other units, which makes this also a rather unique idle game, that pretty much all of the stuff you're gonna be seeing in this game is useful. There's not gonna be some stuff where you're gonna be like, well, maybe like after playing a day or so you won't really need this one thing anymore because it's gone, like it's not needed anymore. So this is one of those games where even those units down there, you can actually upgrade them and then they become useful again. So yeah, pretty much nothing is obsolete in this game. It's really nice. Now, at some point in the game, you will be given the task to build a nexus with some meat, and then you can upgrade the nexus using energy and even more meat. Now, and each nexus basically just gives you energy every second, and the higher your nexus level is, the more units you can actually build to complement the nexus, to make you get more maximum energy, to make you get more energy per second, or just to make your abilities more powerful. And your abilities are a wide array from just gaining more of one resource, gaining like minutes of production, or probably the most interesting one, which is clone larvae, which clones all the larvae you have right now and pretty much doubles all the larvae you have, which is a lot more powerful than the larvae rush if you have a lot of larvae. And there's another system in place to complement this, which is cocooning. So basically when you build stuff, it uses every single larvae you have. But if you have cocooned something, then those larvae are pretty much safe. They won't ever be used up if you build something. So if I build something, I won't have to worry about that using my cocoon larvae because they won't ever be touched. But the thing is, when you use clone larvae, it will also clone all the larvae you have cocooned. So you pretty much cocoon up to all the larvae you can possibly clone, and then every time you clone, you will get the maximum amount of larvae that you can possibly get, and you don't have to worry about actually accidentally spending some or not gaining the maximum out of your clone larvae, which is a really nice system that complements the gameplay. If you've played the game for long enough, then each hatchery and expansion you build has a chance of creating mutagen. Now, if you gain mutagen, then it will be inactive at first and will do pretty much nothing. But the thing is, if you do a reset or ascend, the world, as it's called in here, then you will gain all the mutagen you had inactive, and all that mutagen does is, in itself, it's just the more mutagen you have, the more larvae per second you gain. But it's a flat increase that's just added to whatever your larvae per second is. But more importantly than just gaining more larvae per second is upgrading pretty much all the stuff you have in the game called mutations. You can mutate, for example, cloning larvae. You can mutate how swarm works, or the rushes work, or how much mutagen you get, how much territory you get. You can unlock all these mutations, and the thing is, you unlock them first, and then once you have them unlocked, you can then put mutagen into that mutation to make it more powerful. And each mutation you unlock makes it so that all the other mutations are a lot more costly to unlock. So you have to really watch out for what mutations you actually want to unlock. And the ones I picked were just things that I thought were useful. They are not necessarily the best ones. So it's also one of those things where you can really try and maximize your effectiveness and look at what type of playstyle you want to have. Maybe you just want to always go for swarm warps, so you would mutate swarm warps and the Lepidoptera, so you get more energy, and then just swarm warp all the time, and then maybe even mutate bats so that you make the swarm warp even more powerful. And that's like a playstyle you can do, or you can make like an entire playstyle around cloning larvae. So that's like a really nice bit of depth to the game. You can also gain achievements through certain events, like in most idle games, and these achievements give you achievement points. Now there are some upgrades in the game for your larvae that you can buy like 4 or 5 times maybe, and basically for each achievement point you have, you gain an increase to your larva production. So I think that's a really nice bonus that the upgrades, the achievements don't do anything by themselves, but they have to be upgraded first. But it's not really a big thing, though. The upgrade is actually rather powerful, so going for achievement is something you really want to do when you start playing the game. And some other stuff. First, there is a really nice statistics page, and just in general, the game is really nice with statistics. It shows you a lot of stuff, tells you a lot of things, allows you to do a lot of things and control it the way you want to. You can even do stuff like, okay, I want 4,000, what do I do? I do 4,000? No, I do 4K, and that actually works. And you can also do stuff like, I want to grow as much until I'm at like 50 trillion. So you can do like add 50t, and then it will grow as much as it needs to get to 50 trillion, which is really nice. There's a lot of things you can do to work around with how the game works, and there's also some really nice options, like maybe even advanced statistics that show you a ton of more stuff. So it's really, really nice in that regard. And also something that's also incredibly nice with this game, it has an undo button, which I've never ever seen in any idle game up to date, but this has an undo button, and it does exactly that. It undoes the very last thing you've done, which is incredibly nice and very helpful, especially if you want to test around with your larvae or your territory and all that stuff, and you don't want to really lose anything forever, and you just want to test something, is this good or not? And if it's just one action, you can just undo it afterwards. It's really nice. Now, before I reach the verdict for this game, I have to say, of course, it's all a giant reference to StarCraft 2, and I actually think this is a really nice bonus point, and that I'm actually able to play Zerg again in a game that's not dead. I don't know. So, the verdict. The game is very simple and has still some very interesting mechanics, and has some really nice depth to it despite how simple it actually is. And it has a very clean and nice interface that shows you all you need to know and just the stuff you need to know. on your very first glance. And if you want to see more, you can see more with advanced options. So it's really nice in that regard. And it probably has actually one of the best interfaces I've seen in idle games so far, probably because it's so simple and has everything on the spot. Also, it doesn't really get boring that quickly. Like, this is one of those games where you're gonna be like, oh, look at that, I can grow 70 trillion more of these, and then I can grow more of the neuro profits, and then I can get more territory, and then I can get more Hive Empress, and so on. And you just have this entire circle of new stuff you can do all the time. And you see all the stuff, how it changes. It's got some really nice bonuses, like it shows you how much time you need for the next upgrade if you just don't do anything right now. But of course, you can just buy more stuff, and then you'll see, oh, that time just went down by half or something. So it's you see all the time just what effect your upgrades and everything has. And it also has plenty of depth with the mutagen and how you want to like go about. For example, do you want to just wait with how much stuff you want to grow at once? Maybe like get more of the lower units so that you gain more of the higher units faster, or just pump into higher units first and then just go AFK and come back when you have more of the lower units. There's a lot of ways you can play the game, especially with what I talked about earlier with the mutagen stuff that you can buy, and which ones you want to buy, which ones you want to upgrade, which spells you want to go for with the energy, and all of that. So all in all, it's an extremely solid and fun idle game. You should definitely check it out. However, the one downside with this game is that there are no more updates. So all you see is what you get, and there's probably not going to be anything new with this game, sadly. Unless at some point the maker comes back to it. But to be fair, this game doesn't really need any updates. It's completely fine as it is. So, that has been a little review of Swarm Simulator. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys next time.